We learn a Sikha, Haazinu Shabbos Shuva. Beautiful Sikha, easy, straightforward, obviously with a great lesson. Famous Nakuda that the Rabbi talks about very often, the beginning of the Sikha, and then he goes to a different topic. Parsha starts off, Haazinu Shamayim Sishma Haaretz. The Shamayim should Haazen, and the Aretz should Sishma. Why does he word Hazen for Shamayim and Sishma to the Aretz? Because Moshe Karv l'Shamayim, says the Sifri, he was close to heaven. Lefichach Amar Haazinu Shamayim, Lefisha Yadachik Min Haaretz, Lefichach Amar Tishas. Because he was distant from the earth, in other words, he was more in heaven than on earth. It says Sishma Aretz, and over there it contrasts it to Yeshaya Hanavi, who said that the opposite, because he was Karv l'Aretz and Rachik Min Hashem. Now the fact is, everything in Torah has to have Haydah. The fact that Moshe Karv l'Shamayim is a lesson for us. Because each and every one of us, based on Perek Mem Beis and Tanya, Yesh Ba. Every one of us has part of Moshe Rabbeinu inside of us, etc., etc. So we have to at least have some shaykhs to it. And whatever levels that Moshe had, we have to be able to access it as much as we possibly can. How is it possible to become Kerbal Shamayim? And how can you expect us to be so? And also, what's the general connection with the fact that the parsha to the era of the time that you live, that you're reading it? The Rabbi says that many times we spoke about that there always has to be a lesson. So what's the lesson? The fact that Haazinu, that on many years we read it in Aseres Yemei Teshuva, Shabbos Shuva, just like this year. What's the hero for this? So we'll understand this by first of all focusing on the point Shabbos Shuva. Why is it called Shabbos Shuva? Everything must show something. It's not just interesting hashgacha pratis, but rather there's a deep lesson. Now, you might say it's simple because it's one of Aseres Yemei Teshuva, but everything's exact, says the Rebbe. And the fact that we call it Shabbos Shuva means that there's something unique about Shabbos Shuva. And even according to the opinions that say Shabbos Shuva because of the Haftarah, Shabbos Shuva, nevertheless, the fact that we call it Shuva and the fact that we chose that Haftarah means that there's a strong connection to Shuva. And there's a very powerful thing about this Haftarah, especially as we see that the place can write that even though technically all the other Shabbosim of the year, a Nar, a child under 13 can read Haftarah, when it comes to Shuva Yisrael, you can't. Because there's something extra special, unique about this. So we must say that the fact that the Shabbos is called Shabbos Shuva is not only because of the Haftarah is called, but rather because that's really what Shabbos is. That's the theme of the Shabbos. And that's why you read Shabbos Shuva, but that's not because of the Haftarah it's because of the theme that you read the Haftarah. So what's the theme of Shabbos Shuva? Rabbi says something beautiful. We know that the Alter Rebbe explains in the Kutei Torah that Chazal tell us the difference between doing Tshuva the whole year and Shuva and Aseres Yemei Teshuva is that Aseres Yemei Teshuva you could do it b'yachid, and alone, and in the rest of the year you have to do it with a minyan. But the Alter Rebbe explains that Yachid over here means the Yechida, the level of Yechida, that when Aseres Yemei Teshuva, you do Tshuva, it's from the Yechida, and the rest of you do B'tzibur. What's the Tzibur? The 10 Koches HaNefesh, the 3 Moichin, the 3 intellectual capacities, and the 7 Midas. Now, the being able to do Tshuva through 10 Koches HaNefesh or through Yechida corresponds to 2 different kinds of tshuva. Tshuva tato, the lower level of tshuva, and tshuva ilah, the higher level of tshuva, as Tanya explains in Geras HaTshuva, v'aruach toshav alekim, Hashanah going back to the spirit going back to the Eibishter that gave, in other words, going and elevating, connecting to Hashem. Why? Because what's the point of Torah? Mitzvah safsa v'chibur, to connect us to Elikus. When chas v'shalom somebody goes against a mitzvah or doesn't have Veda, there's a weakening, there's a lacking in the connection to Hashem. And in their keiches pnim, in their essential keiches, in their energies, they're getting somewhat separated from Elikus. And therefore, how do you get reconnected? You have to awaken the etzem hanefesh, which is higher than the keiches pnimim, because in that place there is no weakening of Elikus, and the connection is always there. But the fact that this level of tshuva, as we said, is to fill in a hole that happened through an aveda we've done, shows that this place that you're accessing has some shaykhs, has some relationship to lack, and therefore it can fill the lack. The fact that it can fill the lack means that it has some relationship to the lack. So even though it comes from etzem hanefesh, which is higher than koiches pnimim, nevertheless, it's still from a level within the nefesh that was already sourced out to become a source to the koiches hanefesh. It's not the etzem hanefesh pure and without any relationship to the koiches pnimim. But yechida is higher than everything. It's higher than all sins. And this is not because we've sinned, but just because we want to get closer to Hashem. And the mile of tshuva, Aseres Yemei Teshuva is tshuva ilah. You're getting closer to Hashem just because you want to get close. Now, says the Rabbi, the difference between Aseres Yemei Teshuva and the rest of the year, you could also see the difference between Shabbos and Yemei Sachel, weekdays. Weekdays, the main avodah is bilurim. Go, get a job, you do what you have to do, you work uvdin b'chel, you're working in this world. And so too, the tshuva of Aseres Yemei Teshuva, you're working with the koiches hanefesh. You're working with your personality, your character. But then there's Yom HaShabbos, which is no melacha, and you get higher, you have aliyas ha'ilamus, and then you're just climbing in kedusha. So too, says the Rebbe, you can say that there's a difference within Aseres Yemei Teshuva itself between the Shabbos of Aseres Yemei Teshuva and the weekdays. As we know, the famous Nekuda, that there's 7 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and each one does tshuva on the day of the week for the past whole year. So the Sunday, the Monday, the Tuesday. The Shabbos does tikkun on all the Shabbosim. And what is Shabbos? Shabbos is higher than the whole world. You're not within this world. So every other day that you're doing tshuva for things that something involved with the world. So ultimately, even though your level of tshuva, of yechida, in Aseres Yemei Teshuva, nevertheless, there's still some shaykhs to the world. It's not the ultimate level of tshuva ilah. When do you have the ultimate level of tshuva ilah? On Shabbos. Shel Shabbos Shuva. Shabbos of the Aseres Yemei Teshuva. Because then you have Shabbos within tshuva. In other words, there's no shaykhs to the world as all. And that's the connection that we could explain back to the original part of the Sikha of Parshas Haazinu. Kalev l'Shamayim, that we have to be close to heaven. What is Eretz Shamayim within each and every one of us? Koiches Pnimim is Eretz. The minion, the Asar Tzibra Nefesh, etc. That's Eretz. And Shamayim, Neshama Yechida is in heaven. So the Tshuva Tatog, doing Tshuva Mitzvah Koiches Pnimim is Eretz. And Tshuva Ilah from Yechida is, sorry, he says Tshuva Tatog is Koiches Pnimim. Tshuva Ilah, there's 2 levels. There's Tshuva of Eretz and Tshuva of Shamayim. As we explain the difference between within Aseres Yemei Teshuva itself, there's the lower level and the higher level. And each and every one of us has to be Karev l'Shamayim. Why? Because the Rebbe says it's not coming from you, it's coming from the Eibishter. Giving us a Keiches Dashubi, Dirshu Hashem Yimatzik Rubi Yisakarev, Hashem's giving us the ability to get closer. And these are the 10 days. So even though the rest of the year we have to go first tshuva tatoch, then tshuva ilah, etc., level and level. Aseres Yemei Teshuva, you have an incredible energy to do it, and especially in the year that the Rebbe said the Sikha that it was 2 days Rosh Hashanah, then right away Shabbos. You went straight from Rosh Hashanah into Shabbos. So what's the point in summarizing the Sikha? It seems that there is 3 levels. There's tshuva tata, then there's tshuva il. No, sorry, I got it right the first time, not the second. There's 2 levels of tshuva. The tshuva of tshuva tato mitzad koiches pnim. Then there's tshuva ilah mitzad yechida. And that's the difference between Eretz and Shamayim. And we have to access Shamayim. So I'm just looking back and trying to see. So it seems like all the days of Aseres Yemei Teshuva is Tshuva ilah, but it's not shleimus of Tshuva ilah. When is shleimus of Tshuva ilah? Dafka in Shabbos Shuva. Mitzvah Hashem, we should access that level by all of us.